But that is the site that I wanted to base my project on and my piece on. So that building historically was actually an old cannery, union building for a lot of the Filipino migrant workers and just migrant workers in general who would move along the Pacific Northwest and move along the West Coast for seasonal labor. The conditions in the factories and in the canneries and in the places, the farms that they were working in were horrible. They were dangerous. Folks' human rights weren't being respected. Folks were not getting paid fair wages. So what the workers did was they collectivized and they unionized, and that building was actually the home base for that union. The union's name was the International Longshore Workers Union, or the ILWU, Local 37 chapter, and it has so much history in not just the Chinatown in Seattle, but I learned actually by doing this project the Chinatowns all over the country. A lot of Filipino migrant workers would actually start in the ILWU Local 37 chapter and then go to different chapters across the nation and help develop the movement there. They worked against their bosses and they worked against like a lot of the like rich, wealthy powers that were trying to keep them down. And the work became actually such a threat that they were targeted. Folks from that union were harassed, folks from that union were arrested, and on June 1st, 1981, two people who were leaders in the union, two young people, Jean Viernes and Silmy Domingo, who were actually students at the University of Washington, were assassinated in front of that building by a motorcycle assassin who was sent by the dictator in the Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos. Now, folks don't know a little bit of history about the Philippines. In the late 70s and early 80s, martial law was imposed on the entire country. And I want to state now that martial law is currently on the island of Mindanao. So these are conditions that haven't changed, right? There is a current dictatorship in the Philippines. But in the 70s, the work that was happening in Seattle, in Pioneer Square, in Chinatown, was such a threat to the wealthy folks here and in the Philippines that Jean and Silmy were killed for it, right? There's so much palpable history in that building. But when we walk past it, when I get off the bus, my mom and I even walked past it a couple weeks ago, there's no memory of it. The public art is great, but none of it's informed by the people that moved through that building, the breath that happened in that building, the death that happened in that building, right? So what I wanted to do with this piece was kind of I don't know, if folks know canned foods, there's a prank where you can take the label off canned foods and you have no idea what it is. You know, it could be beans, it could be sardines, right? That's what that building feels like to me. It feels like a can that's had its label removed, had its label stolen from it. So with this project, I wanted to actually relabel that can, give that building back a name, recenter the people who worked in that building, who organized in that building, who fought in that building. So I took cans, sardine cans, as a way to not just preserve the fish, but also preserve the stories, right, and preserve the narrative, and relabeled them with photos of members of that union. You have some workers here. Jean and Silmy are actually on this can. You have a photo from the yearbook in 1957, and then you have some sardine cans with photos of their direct actions that they took against the Marcos regime in the Philippines and against the humbaos, not hotels movement that folks from Wild were talking about. Yeah, the last thing I want to say is this board that I wheat pasted on with some fun advertisements. Yeah. I'm really excited, and I want to talk about this because at the end of the project, once the new youth camp cycle rolls around, I really want to take this board and nail it onto that building as an act of physically relabeling it, right? Woohoo! Yeah. Also, let's go buy back that building.
That building is up for development. Sally Bag